So I asked you guys to give me your anime hot takes, and today we're going to be going through them but with a twist. Because your takes are going to be getting put on a tier list from F to S tier. If your take ends up in F or D tier, then you failed and I never want to hear your hot take again. If you're in C or B tier, then your hot take passes, and if your take gets in A or S tier, then you're very valid. Now with all that said, let's jump into the first hot take, which says JJBA has influenced anime on about the same level as Dragon Ball. Now listen, JoJo's has definitely influenced anime in a lot of ways, like Jolene being the first female protagonist or Jonathan being the first non-Japanese protagonist, but comparing it to Dragon Ball is crazy. It's not even a competition. Dragon Ball has influenced anime on a different level. Every modern shonen is influenced from Dragon Ball in some way, like the transformations, the tournament arcs, the power-ups, it all stems from Dragon Ball. And look at the big three, all of the authors cite Toriyama as influence for their work. So strictly inside of anime, JoJo's just cannot compete with Dragon Ball in terms of influence. So unfortunately, I've got to put that in D tier, but that does not mean I don't think JoJo's is influential. It just isn't on the same level as Dragon Ball. Because you could say hormone breathing, for example, might have influenced Demon Slayer's breathing styles, and JoJo's level of like fashion and detail definitely has influenced some other series. So I'd for sure put it up there on a tier list of being influential. Alright, the next hot take says that Yuta is not a bum. Now see, I'm gonna have to get the JJK fans to answer this question for me, because I'm watching this season so far and I do not see how Yuta is a bum. Like Yuta and Gojo literally cooked on that plan to save Yuji. Like obviously I know Yuta had to kill him in that moment, but it was for his own good. But of course the manga fans know more than we do. I'm anime only for JJK, so I don't know what Yuta does later in the manga, but from what I can see now, I do not see how he's a bum. He seems like a chill guy, man. I feel like there's some agenda against him, like they're always making Africa jokes about Yuta. But JJK fans, let me know in the comments, is Yuta actually a bum or is it just an agenda? But for now, I'm gonna put this take in B tier because I actually do agree, but of course that is subject to change. He might prove himself to be a bum this season. Alright, the next hot take says that Bakudeku is a toxic ship, and this has been a thing for so long. I hate this ship. Like these characters are clearly straight. Why is the fanbase obsessed with making them gay? Like I'm telling you, back in the heyday for My Hero, the fanbase was so cringe with this shit. And it was the face of anime at the time. They made anime fans look so bad. And yes, it has calmed down now, but the ship was always cringe, so this is an S tier take. Alright, this next one says, my friend thinks Blue Lock is the only good anime about sports. You know what we need to do with your friend? We need to shoot him. I'm just kidding, we're not gonna do that, but we need to stage an intervention because Blue Lock is not the only good sports anime. My favorite is Hajime no Ippo, but there's also Slam Dunk, Karuko's Basketball, Haiku. There's plenty of good sports anime out there, and I think your friend might just be falling into this trap of like focusing on the sport itself, but sports anime are not about the sports. It's always about the character development. That is what makes sports anime so good. So if your friend thinks Blue Lock is so good because it's about football, you need to put him onto some new source. That is an F tier take. Alright, the next one says, I said the Shibuya incident arc was better than the Chimera Ant arc. Yes, go ahead and say what you're gonna say because I regret saying it now. Well, at least you're self-aware because the Shibuya incident is not better than the Chimera Ant arc. Now, of course, everyone is entitled to their own opinions. I'm not gonna call you stupid for thinking the Chimera Ant arc is worse than the Shibuya incident, but if I'm being honest, the only real leg up the Shibuya incident has over the Chimera Ant arc is the pacing and the cinematography. So from a viewing experience, it's arguably better, but the fights, the character development is second to none when it comes to the Chimera Ant arc. Like take Yuji and Gon for example, they both reach breaking point in this arc, but Gon's is far more iconic. And Meruem as well is one of the most well-written characters in anime. His whole personal growth makes him multi-dimensional. Whereas compared to Kenjaku, he's only really just starting to become the main villain in the Shibuya incident. So Meruem is definitely a better villain in that way. And while I do enjoy the Shibuya incident, the Chimera Ant arc is clear. So I'm gonna have to disagree with you, my friend. That is going in D tier. Alright, the next take says that Solo Leveling is mid. Now you see, when it comes to Solo Leveling, it was one of the most glazed anime of 2025. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed watching Solo Leveling, but you've got to understand, Solo Leveling only has two things going for it: sick fights and sick animation. The actual plot, character development, there's nothing. So what Solo Leveling does well and aims to do in terms of having good fights and animation, it does incredibly. And most people agree that Solo Leveling has these things going for it, and that's what we're here to watch, because I only watch Solo Leveling for those two things. But the problem is there are a lot of Solo Leveling fans who want to pretend like the show has more to offer. But I have to say, the show just doesn't have anything else. Now, of course, that could change with the manga, but for the first two seasons, I don't want to hear anything about character development or characters because it just doesn't have that. And you know what's even more evidence of this? The lowest rated episode of Solo Leveling Season 2 was the one episode where Sung Jin-woo cried. He finally saved his mum from his sickness, he cried, and the fans bombed the ratings. So that just goes to show most Solo Leveling fans know what they're here to see. Sick fights and sick animation. They don't care about the character development, they don't care about the characters, they only care about seeing their glorious king Orifang. And there's nothing wrong with that because I enjoy watching that too sometimes. And if I had to score Solo Leveling out of 10, I'd say it's a 10 out of 10 when it comes to those two things, but those aren't the only two things which goes into enjoyment of an anime, so overall it's really like a 6 or a 7. That wasn't a 6-7 joke. And I know people use mid as like an insult, so that's really like a 4 out of 10, but if we take mid as like the midpoint being a 5 out of 10, then me saying 6 or 7 means that I agree with you to some extent, so I'll put this in B tier. Alright, the next one says, Attack on Titan's ending was good, like genuinely bro, what's wrong with it? I actually don't understand the hate. Now the AOT ending has been a hot topic for debate since the show finished, and while I feel pretty indifferent towards the ending, I definitely understand why people don't like it. I think the first thing people don't like is the black and white ending, because it's pushed the main characters into this choice of, do we sacrifice ourselves to save the world or do we just kill everyone else to save ourselves? And while there's nothing wrong with that being the ending, it's the fact that the whole time there was a grey area around who's really right and who's wrong, but now in the end we've just got this black and white ending. And also people loved Eren's character in season 4, he was like the ultimate Chad or whatever, but then him breaking down, crying with Armin and dying in the end definitely took away from his character in some ways, and it also doesn't really give closure to the story, because when you actually deep it, Eren's main goal was his freedom. So for him dying in the end and Mikasa killing him kind of felt like a retcon, because look at someone like Lelouch for example, who knows they're willing to lay down their life for their goals. Eren isn't really like that, he wants his freedom. So I don't know, I've always thought the ending was okay, but I know there's more criticisms people definitely have. There's people who can explain this way better than I can, but since I've always thought the ending was okay, I'll put this in C tier. I sort of agree, but I'll tell you this, anyone who tells you the ending of AOT ruins the whole show is waffling. That's an absolute drag. The show is still peak, it's just the ending that people do have some criticisms with. Alright, the next one says, Demon Slayer is the modern Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, not just because it's a great show, it also has a lot of things common with Full Metal and nobody sees it. I agree that the two shows definitely have similarities, but I'm not gonna lie, the similarities really stop after the hook. Because in the beginning, Tanjiro and Ed's main goals is to help their siblings get back to being a human, and they both have to join military organizations to make that goal happen. But the similarities stop there, because once you get into the main show, you realize they're completely different stories. Like, Ed and Ao's dynamic is completely different from Tanjiro and Nezuko's dynamic. And Demon Slayer follows the very traditional shonen plot with the trio characters, the fights, the demon versus humans trope, whereas Ed and Ao's journey is completely different, and even beyond the characters, the show's themes are just worlds apart. Especially the deeper themes in FMAB like religion, corruption, sacrifice. The show touches on a lot of things that are more in line with something like Berserk, for example. And Demon Slayer is generic enough that it could be compared to pretty much any other shonen. So while I do disagree, I think there are some similarities that merit this take enough to put it in C tier. Alright, the next take says JJK is overrated. Do you know what it is? I feel like any anime that gets super popular these days, people will immediately call it overrated. Now I'm not gonna lie to you, there's definitely people out here who are glazing JJK to infinity, moving like it's the best anime to come out of the 2020s. Like, it is good, don't get me wrong, but it's not a perfect story by any means so far. But I wouldn't go as far to call it or label it like overrated. I don't really feel like people shove this anime down my throat and say, watch JJK, watch JJK. Like, it's a good starter anime. It's in the same category as Demon Slayer in my opinion. Easy gateway, it's easy to digest, but JJK is definitely going to go deeper with this season 3, and it has some very deep themes that I think a lot of people tend to gloss over. And people gloss over them because the animation is so good and the fights are so good, but the show does have a lot going for it. So I don't know, this take is kind of like between C and D tier. I don't fully disagree with you, because there are some people out here who will glaze this show to infinity, but it is pretty good. I would recommend it and I do enjoy it, so I will put this in D tier. Alright, the next one says Redo of Healer is the best anime there is in existence with the sole exception of Konosuba. Listen, me and you both know this take is going in F tier. What are you even talking about? I know what kind of man you are. Guys, do not watch Redo of Healer, it's a weird anime. And the last one says anime is better with only one season. To be honest, I wouldn't really put an episode amount or season amount that an anime has to meet for it to be good, because it's all about the characters, the development, the world building, the pacing. All these things come in to make a good anime, as well as the soundtracks and stuff like that. Because you can have a 10 episode anime like Cyberpunk Edge Runners that is a top rated anime, everyone loves it, but you can also have an 1,000 episode anime like One Piece, which everyone still loves. On both sides of the spectrum, the anime can be good or it can be bad, and the episode amount or the amount of seasons it has doesn't really play into that too much. So I disagree. I wouldn't say that anime is better with one season or having 2 seasons or 3 or whatever. That doesn't really matter to me. So that's the last take for this video. I'll put that one in D tier, and it turns out I actually disagree with a lot of you guys. I feel like most takes today ended up in D tier. There was only one F tier take, you know who you are. But let me know if you guys want a part 2. I'm down to do this again, or let me know what other videos you want to see on this channel. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.